Greetings, people. Paul at Greenshire Homestead. I'm going to talk to you today about wells. This is the well that feeds our house. This is a deep well. You got shallow wells and deep wells. This is a deep well. This 6-inch pipe right here goes down 130 feet. We hit water at 90 feet. Pipe's down 130 feet, so we got about 40 feet of water in this pipe, and the pump's down there at the bottom of it. This pipe right here is the electric feed. There's electric wires that run up, from the ground, underground from our house, come up, then they actually go down into the well pipe, down all the way to the pump, and those wires tell the pump when to kick on and off. We got a pressure tank in the basement, and that pressure tank holds 36 gallons of water. When that pressure tank starts to, the water level drops to a certain point, there's a switch in there that activates, turns the current on to the wires, telling the pump to kick on. Once the pressure tank is back up to 36 gallons of water, another surge tells the pump to kick off. So you do want to have a pressure tank, because if you don't have a pressure tank, every time you're in there turning your faucets on to get water, the pressure is the loss in pressure from turning the faucet on is going to tell the pump to kick on. So your pumps will be kicking on and off and kicking on and off and on and off and on and off all day long. That's hard on the pump. You don't want to put extra strain on your pump, and it takes a lot of power, electricity, energy. We will be going off grid. We're currently grid tied solar. Most of our power comes from our solar panels, but we do use the grid at night, and the pump will be a tremendous drain on our batteries once we are off grid, because it takes a lot of power to push water. So with the pressure tank of 36 gallons, that pressure tank has to drop to a certain point before the pump will then kick on. So this is only kicking on a few times a day rather than multiple times a day. So that is why you want to have a pressure tank in your house. Now, what happened was I had a very specific idea of property in my mind, what I wanted and where I wanted to live. There are no water lines in this area. They're miles away. It would be tens of thousands of dollars just to get water lines to this property. Then you got to set a meter and do all kinds of things. Very expensive. And that's if I could even find somebody to do it. So drilling a well, you can collect rainwater. A lot of people do that. That is not a reliable water source, especially if you live in a freezing climate. You can't collect rainwater when it's frozen, and your tanks cannot be above ground when it's frozen. Our tanks, I've got several tanks here. We collect 2,200 gallons of rainwater off of our outbuildings, and I store that for my garden, my berries, and my animals. Anything that isn't inside the house, that's what I use the rainwater for. We have very clean rainwater because I don't have any trees around my outbuildings. That was one of the things I had forecast. I didn't want trees around my building, so I knew I was going to collect the rainwater. So we don't have squirrels and birds and critters hanging out in the trees above our buildings, dropping all their feces and everything else, and all the debris that you would get from a tree down in our rain gutters. So our rainwater is about as clean as it can get. It's coming off a metal roof with no trees around it, but that is not for our home use. That's just for our outdoor use. The home use is strictly from this well. So before I bought the property, I knew we weren't going to have rural water. So I found other properties, but this is the one I settled on. And I called the well driller, and I said, will you meet me out here at this property? I want you to look at it and give me your odds on whether or not we're going to hit water. These guys know what they're talking about. They know where water lays, for the most part. They're not going to be 100% right, of course, but that's not unrealistic for you to ask a driller to meet you at property before you buy it. That's the man's job. You're not inconveniencing him or putting him out by doing that. He knows that if you buy that property and you're going to drill a well, he's the one that's going to do it. So that's his business. So find out who's drilling wells in your area, and ask him to come out with you. He did, and he knows this area, he knows where other homesteads are, and he said, you've got a very good chance of hitting water here, reliable water. So based on that recommendation, I went ahead and bought the ground. We didn't do anything with it. I didn't build any infrastructure on it. I called him, he came out, he drilled the well. Like I said, we got down 90 feet. We hit good water, and we went to 130. He wanted to go to 200, but we hit bedrock at 130. So he did a test, whatever it is they do with their rigs, and told me how many gallons per minute we were getting out of that well. And he said, that is more than enough to run a homestead. I was like, awesome. So based on that, then here come the infrastructure. So when we eventually got to building the house and got the basement and everything all situated, he came out and put the pressure tank in the basement, and then he trenched the lines from the house over to the well, both for the power and for the water. He did all that. He got the pressure tank and everything all hooked up, so everything was functioning to the point where when I turned on a faucet, water came out. Now the bill for that was $6,500 for him to come out, drill the well, run everything, and get water actually flowing through my pipes. Was $6,500. That is a lot of money, but that was money well spent. Now we are going to recoup some of that because we're not going to have water bills, but we are going to have things go wrong. We already had a pressure tank prematurely fail. I had to replace that. It's not a big deal. I did it myself, but it was $300 for the tank. And the pump down here on the bottom of this pipe's $800. When it comes time to replace that, it's going to be an $800 bill. So there are going to be things you're going to have to pay for, but water's not one of them. You may or may not recoup your well costs, but $6,500 is well worth having a reliable water source on your property. Catching rainwater and melting snow is not. Okay, people do it. That's not a reliable water source. Okay, and enough about that. Anyway, so underneath our sink, we've got a 1 gallon pressure tank. And that pressure tank is just for a little spigot that we keep next to our kitchen faucet. It's another little spigot, and that spigot is the water we drink. It has a reverse osmosis filtration system where the water goes through that filtration system and then fills that small pressure tank. And that's the water that we drink, that we actually ingest. We make our coffee, our tea, and when we're going to drink a glass of water, that's what we drink. The water that comes out of that spigot is more or less bottled water by the time it's gone through that reverse osmosis system. There are things in well water that you need to be careful about, bacteria-wise, E. coli being one of them. So you do need to test the water before you're going to ingest it. We tested our water, we're good to go as far as the bacteria goes. I put that reverse osmosis system in though just as a fail-safe, just in case something were to contaminate the water in between the times. We have it tested once a year. In fact, the guy's coming today to do that. He's going to change out the filters on the reverse osmosis and test the water. But you do want to have some type of filtration system. We're also going to be installing a UV light. It's a 3-foot tube with a UV light, and the water runs through that as it comes into the house. I have no idea how that works, but the UV light kills bacteria somehow. I have no idea how. I've been talking about doing that. It's not going to install itself, so I need to stop talking about it and do it, but I just don't feel the incentive because we've got that reverse osmosis, but I need to get it done. So there will be debris that you're going to be sucking up into your house from your well. At the bottom of this pipe is a pipe that also has screening on it, and that screening is designed to keep the large particles from getting into your well and sucked up by your pump. But there are going to be small particles, and there is going to be some discolored water, and some things are going to happen when you first install your pump, and those are going to be showing up in your house. And if you hold up a glass of water after you take it out of the kitchen faucet, it might look a little cloudy or discolored, and you might see little particles floating around in it. It's okay. It's not going to hurt you as long as it doesn't have the bacteria in it. But those little particles are going to build up on the screens in your faucets. So you are going to want to unscrew those every now and then, and just kind of tap them to knock the debris out, and then rinse them out and screw them back in. It's not a big deal, but that will eventually affect the way the water's coming out of your faucet. If it's kind of coming out a little funny, it's time to do that. But eventually your well is going to do what's called prime, because when the pump kicks on, there's a tremendous surge suction of water that takes place down there. And when the well is first drilled, there's a lot of debris down there and just different silt and things that can get sucked up in that well. Eventually, they're going to make their way through your house and move on. And that area around that pump, where that initial draw comes from, is going to kind of clean out just over a period of time, and that's when the well is primed. And you're going to notice that your water's less cloudy, it's more clear, and there's less debris in it. So that's when you know your well is primed. And once it's primed, it's going to stay that way pretty well. I mean, it's a big body of water underground, so different things can affect it. But for the most part, once it's primed, you're going to be good to go. You're going to have to clean those screens a lot less. Your water's going to look better. So we do have a cistern. That's another topic for another day. I will be doing a video on the cisterns, and I'm going to be doing another video on the pressure tanks. We had 2 pressure tanks, one for the well, one for the cistern. So I'm going to have another video on the pressure tanks. I've just kind of given you an abridged version of what they do. So in short, before you buy a piece of property, it's best to go ahead and call a driller, have them come out and give you an idea of whether or not you're going to hit good water. And then before you build your infrastructure, have them drill, because you can go and build a beautiful 5,000 square foot log home and put 5 or 6 buildings up and have this beautiful homestead, but without a reliable water source, you're totally screwed. I mean, it doesn't matter how beautiful your house is. If you ain't got water running through it, it's going to be a huge, huge problem. So get that water taken care of first, and then build your infrastructure. This is Paul at Greenshire Homestead. I'm wishing you the best of luck with your well drilling or whatever type of water system you've got in place. That's the most important thing you're going to have on your homestead is your water supply. So take care of that first. You have a great day. Hope you have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time at Greenshire Homestead.